Good morning, Idaho. Hope you're having a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when you're listening to this. Welcome to the Local Yokel Idaho podcast, where we talk about what is going on in the wonderful state of Idaho. Now, coming into our first story, we teased a little bit in the hook earlier. Darigold's expansion in Idaho. This comes by the Boise Dev by Donde. Seattle-based dairy giant that many of us know, Darigold, has announced plans to establish a significant corporate presence in the Boise area, a move that is set to have a considerable impact on the local economy. Darigold, a cooperative of around 300 family-owned dairy farms across Idaho, Montana, Oregon, and Washington, has been a staple in the dairy industry since 1918, offering a range of products including milk, cheese, and coffee creamers. Darigold CEO Joe Coote explained the strategic decision, stating, quote, "Establishing a presence in the Boise area just makes sense as we continue to modernize and globalize our business," end quote. The move is expected to provide Darigold with a greater access to a large agriculture-focused workforce, establish the company as a valued community partner, and position it closer to some of its farm and production operations in the region. While Darigold will maintain a presence in Seattle, the company plans to relocate key functions closer to its farms and processing plants. This move follows Darigold's expansion of its operations in the Boise Central Bench in 2020, which included the addition of a new packaging line. The expansion is a testament to Idaho's thriving dairy industry and its role in the national and global food supply chain. Carrie-Ann Fault, CEO of industry group Dairy West, highlighted the significance of Darigold's move, stating, quote, "Adding this century-old brand of the state's lineup of food and ag companies shows the important role that Idaho plays in feeding people around the country and globally," end quote. Darigold aims to secure a space in Boise early next year, with plans to spend most of 2024 and 2025 developing the site and staffing up. This move is expected to create job opportunities and stimulate economic growth in the area. All that said, I think this is cool to hear. I do know Darigold has had a little bit of a bumpy ride because I think it was last spring. Their processing plant over there, they have one in downtown Caldwell, had a fire, and so that one was out of commission, and then they had to send a bunch of their milk over to the plant that's there in Boise, and that one couldn't handle it all, so they had to go send it down to some of their plants that are down south to kind of handle the load, and it was just crazy, and farmers were having issues and different things, but I think they've gotten that all sorted out, and this is really cool to see. I mean, from the info I think I've talked about here in the show, one of the biggest exports that we do here in Idaho is agriculture, and of that, dairy is a huge one. And so I think this is just a logical step. Plus, you're seeing kind of the instability in some of the more left-leaning towns on the coast with Seattle and Portland and California. It becoming economically difficult, and the taxes and different stuff, where then you have Idaho that's like, hey, we already have a great dairy industry. You already have a lot of resources here. Just bring your corporate offices here, and we're way nicer on our taxation, and you actually don't have people like burning stuff down all the time and rioting.
Yeah, this feels a lot like when a lot of Silicon Valley was moving out to Arizona and Texas, where they're getting out of California because it's just exorbitantly expensive. And those places they moved to are much more friendly in terms of cost of living and cost of doing business. And I'm hoping that Boise is much the same way. The downside of that would be the influx of people, because like they said, they're going to be spending the next 2 years staffing up. So that means that there needs to be people to get hired. My hope would be that local people who are already here would be able to get jobs. So we'd be able to stimulate the local economy locally.
I think there's a high chance of that, mainly because of the area that Darigold is dealing in, right? It's in milk, which is obviously something that Idaho is experienced in. So I have no doubt there's a lot of people that are in the state of Idaho that already know a great deal about it and could be brought on board. But then also on the flip side, you've always got the menial staffing jobs, which I think obviously it's going to be cheaper to hire someone here in Idaho that has that lower cost of living than it is going to be out of state. So I think I personally believe, I could be wrong in this, that this is probably going to be a big net positive for the state, kind of like what you see with Simplot and some of the other big manufacturing areas in the state, that generally there are pretty smart people and pretty good people to fill the roles that are in the state, and they're often a lot cheaper than it is to try to hire some person that's coming from their huge degree where they spent tons of money down in California to get it or whatever, and then they come up here and they need enough money to pay for that and their home, and they're expecting a certain level of comfort, rather than the average Idahoan either already has their assets here and homes and experience and stuff. And we're rather content people, I like to think, us Idahoans, which is good in some ways, bad in others.
Yeah, no, I think overall this should be a good thing. And at the very least, us bringing in more business clientele like that to the city of Boise, but also the Treasure Valley as a whole, something tells me that's got to be good for our local economy.